Welcome back, class. In this lesson, we will discuss principles that help improve your ability to memorize and recall information. There are many principles that govern the brain's capacity to memorize information. When we understand these principles, we can use them to improve memory. Here are some principles to keep in mind when we are trying to memorize information. The first principle we will discuss is the primacy effect. It is the tendency to remember what we learned first. For example, information at the beginning of a study session is more likely to be recalled than information in the middle of a study session. The next principle to improve memory is the recency effect. It is the tendency to remember what was learned last. Like the primacy effect, the brain tends to recall information at the end of a study session. But, how can you apply the primacy and recency effect to improve your memory? As you learned in the textbook, instead of studying or reading for long hours, which only has one beginning and one end, take breaks to create shorter study sessions. This will give you more beginnings and ends for a better recall of studied information. The next principle is mental visualization. This principle is important because the brain thinks with images, not words. If you don't believe me, think about your dreams. Do you dream with words or images? Do your dreams have closed captions? No, we don't. So, the principle is that we remember pictures more than words. So, how can we use the principle of mental visualization to improve our memory? Create a mental picture of what you need to remember. We will discuss this principle in more detail in the next lesson. The next principle is meaningful organization. It is easier to remember when information is grouped into meaningful categories or patterns. Essentially, the brain tends to remember information more effectively when it is organized or grouped together. Therefore, when studying, organize information into categories or patterns that are meaningful to you. For example, you can alphabetize a list of words you need to remember. The next principle to improve memory is familiarity. This means we remember familiar information more than unfamiliar information. How can this help you become a better student? You can familiarize yourself with what you will be studying. For example, before starting a reading session, preview the content of the textbook to get familiar with it. You can review the table of contents, headings, and subheadings before you read it. The next principle is association. You learned and practiced this skill while learning the SUN list. Essentially, memory is improved when new information is connected to something familiar or something we know. By connecting what you've just learned to what you already know, you can enhance your memory even further. Your textbook will dive deeper into this principle. Let's move on to the next principle, uniqueness or novelty. The brain tends to remember things that are out of the ordinary more than the ordinary. Therefore, try creating funny, strange, and even gross images. The last principle is emotions. The brain releases chemicals that act like glue, making memories more permanent when encountering emotions. As you engage with the material you're studying or reading, take a moment to truly embrace and connect with the feelings that accompany that knowledge. In addition, as you learn the skillful ability of chain linking with storytelling, which will be discussed in the next lesson, making the story unique while adding emotions will enhance memory. These techniques will transform your learning experience into something truly memorable. You've explored various mechanical techniques to boost your brain's capability to memorize and access information. This was a lot of information, so take some time to evaluate and discuss the memory principles you've learned so far with others. I look forward to seeing you in the next lesson.